You've come up with your big idea. You've found an innovative opportunity and you're ready to take action. I'm guessing you're now asking, now what? How do I get started and make my dream a reality? The bad news is that I can't tell you the answer to this. Every idea is different, every customer has a different value proposition, and every supply chain introduces its own set of problems. If there was a single path to take, there'd be a lot more successful entrepreneurs out there. However, don't let that scare you. It's surprisingly easy to figure out everything you need to know about your customers and everything you need to know about your partners. You just need to get out of your office and ask them. Customers want to talk to someone who might be able to solve their problems. Suppliers want to have you as a future customer. Finding out whether your big idea has potential just requires you to ask questions from people who want to give you answers. In fact, asking for advice is one of the very best ways of getting to talk to a potential customer. In the summer of 2013, I was involved in exploring the creation of a new private equity fund. There were a number of key potential investors who we wanted to talk to, and in each case, I didn't ask to come present. Instead, I asked if they'd be willing to review our presentation and provide feedback and advice on our idea. No one said no. And the people I was talking to are high-profile entrepreneurs who had very little time to spare. The reality is, way too many entrepreneurs skip this phase. They're so enamored with their own big idea, they don't consider the fact that customers might not value it as much as they think. They don't get the information they need to develop a strategy that will ensure their venture can actually be sustainable. While this is bad for entrepreneurship overall, it's great news for you. By actually listening to your customers and partners before you take additional action, you'll have information that may help you avoid the extremely costly missteps that your competitors will blindly stumble into. You'll also have a relationship with potential customers and partners that you can take advantage of throughout the life of your venture. With that in mind, let's look at the first half of the equation, your customers. For the most part, you need to assume you don't know anything about your customers. You have to be open to the idea that your customers might not value your big idea enough to turn it into a sustainable venture. We'll talk more about this in a future module, but there's a very high likelihood that the product customers actually want is only tangentially related to your original big idea. To find this out, you have to determine what your customers actually want as opposed to what you want to produce. Entrepreneurship begins and ends with the customer, and we can never forget that our big idea is only valuable if a customer finds it valuable. So how do we find out what our customer wants? Before we can ask this question, we need to ask a more fundamental one. Who are our customers? This might sound like an odd question, but it's going to be one of the most important questions you'll end up answering. And you'll ask it over and over again as long as your enterprise is in existence. There will be strategic considerations we'll talk about later. But first, you need to recognize there is a fundamental difference between who your users are and who your customers are. Users are the people who actually use your product. Customers are the people who pay for your product. Understanding the difference is crucial to the success of your enterprise. In many cases, customers and users are the same people. But in more and more scenarios, it's turning out that this isn't the case. To give you an example, a few years ago, we were lucky enough to talk to Wendy Kopp in the physical version of this class. Wendy is the founder of Teach for America, which is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to eliminate educational inequity in America by enlisting high-achieving recent college graduates and professionals to teach in urban and rural public schools. When Wendy first started Teach for America, it was a new social venture, just like the one some of you are thinking about. It's been amazingly successful, but it still faces the same fundamental question your venture faces. Who are its customers? Are they the college students they try to recruit? Are they the donors who donate hundreds of millions of dollars every year? Are they the local, state, and federal government who provide tens of millions of dollars in grants every year? Are they the school systems who use Teach for America recruits? In this case, the answer is TFA has multiple customer groups and multiple users, and the enterprise would not be viable without all of them. To show you the importance of differentiating between your users and your customers, when Google first came on the scene, there were about 5 other search engines, and they all worked pretty darn well. In fact, I don't think any of us who were using search engines were particularly dissatisfied with the search engine that we had. Coming up with a new search engine didn't seem like a very compelling value proposition. What Google recognized, though, was that its customers were very different from its users. While other search engines focused on their users and had added additional functionality in an effort to differentiate their products, Google recognized that the true customers were advertisers who were willing to pay to deliver focused messages to specific users. By developing a very compelling set of tools that allowed advertisers to reach the Google user, Google created a value proposition that made it sustainable and ultimately the highly profitable business that it is today. Who is the customer must be the first question you answer after coming up with your big idea. We'll talk more about this in our strategy module, but targeting your customer segments and choosing not just who your customers are, but also consciously deciding who your customers aren't will allow you to strategically position yourself to be successful. Once you've identified your customers, we can move to the next set of questions we need to answer. What's their problem, and how much would they value a solution?